Today's episode of the podcast Everything About Everything is with Scott Capurro, a very interesting individual who is an actor, a comedian, a playwright, and a book writer. One of his books is called Foul Play. I recommend you to check it out. And his acting career includes movies like Star Wars. His comedy career has spanned many years, and I urge you to have a look at his material because he is truly fearless comedian and one of those people who is not afraid to speak out, and I urge you to have a look. In this podcast, we will discuss many different topics, including the difference between homosexual and heterosexual relationships, a touch on transgender relationships. We're going to talk about properties in London and how you get ripped off, consequently. And overall, it's going to be a very diverse podcast with many different subtopics. So hope you enjoy it. And let's get down to it. Boom.
Right. But you want to live in London?
Yes, I do. So this is my girlfriend's place. I live in Islington.
Oh.
With my parents as well, for the time being.
All right.
Yeah. But we're thinking of buying a flat. But in London, I've recently understood how it works, because you can't actually own a flat. You can only
You own the leasehold.
Yeah,
I have my leasehold.
I was like, it's basically just rent.
It's feudal. It's a feudal system.
Yeah.
We're servants. We're slaves to the queen.
Literally. If to the queen, whoever owns the
Well,
queen
yeah. I
nowadays.
mean, she owns. Well, she'll own a lot of this area, but where we are, it's a Jewish family called Kuntz. They have a bank, Kuntz Bank too, and they've owned the area for like 1,000 years, literally for 1,000 years, and we pay a ground rental to them. I only know all this because we've just they're adding 8 luxury flats to the top of our building right now, and we've been offered by the company a chance to extend our leasehold. So they're going to offer us 99 more years to add on to our 99 years. But I don't care because I don't have kids. Anyway. So I've tried to explain all this to my father, but he doesn't. In America, doesn't understand it all. We own the air in the flat.
Yeah.
We own the 4 walls for 90 years, but we don't.
You don't even own, because
You don't even know. No.
you don't even own.
Yeah.
Is an American different?
Yeah. They don't do this in the US.
You own
This
the
is
flat.
particular to Britain and Wales, by the way. They don't do it in Scotland and Northern Ireland either, leaseholding. They don't have it. They outlawed it because it's wrong. It's fucked up.
It is wrong.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And people have been fighting it for years and years. And now new building owners, you probably know this, this was frustrating you, they're using it sort of as an abusive tool. Because it used to be kind of a flat fee, it was basic and it wasn't huge. But now the ground rental, the ground rentals are now like thousands of dollars sometimes a month, thousands of pounds a month, the ground rental. And anyway.
The disappointment.
It's just another reason why I want to leave. I just kind of had it feeling, it's very subtle, the feeling of being a subject, but I don't like it. I really fucking hate the royal family. And they're getting more popular now than ever before. When I first came over, people fucking hated them. And then Diana was murdered by the Queen and people really hated them. And now you can't say one wrong word about the Queen in a comedy club. They boo you off stage. Even young people love her. They love. You have this whole thing about Harry making up his own mind and people freaking. Half the country is furious about it. About what? About him wanting to move to Canada? Who gives a shit? He does nothing. They're you know.
That's what I never understood. They don't.
They do nothing.
Do anything?
They
So
do
it's
nothing.
like
They do nothing, but they eat too much food and rape children, and they're paid well for it.
And then I was thinking, like, should we discuss anything? Like, do you want to leave anything off kind of camera? I was like, no, okay, fair enough.
No, I hate them. I think that the Queen is a racist war baiter, and I just think that what the British are good at is rewriting history all the time. So removing themselves from the equation, making themselves seem innocent.
I never understood that. It's like you've been a powerful nation that literally took over a lot of world, or all over the world. Like, why would you be ashamed of it?
There was a period. If you know about if you've ever been to the Victorian Albert Museum, back where it's a restaurant now, but it was a storage space. And part of the reason why it was because in the 60s it had been beautifully designed, by a Victorian designer to reflect different cultures that the British had kind of taken over. And that was a big point of contention and a source of shame for the British in the 50s and 60s. So they put black plastic over all of it and covered it and turned it into a storage space. Anyway, about maybe a decade and a half ago, they stripped all the plastic back and found this beautiful tile and reopened it as a restaurant. It's really popular, part of the V&A now. But you're right. There's a lot of guilt. Because their behavior was terrible.
Yeah, but it's like hundreds of years ago. That's kind of how the world was. The strongest survives. You go and take over what you need, basically. Yeah, that's how you expand.
It's a resource of shame, and I think it's definitely something that's made people that voted in favor of Brexit angry. That they're forced to relive a part of their history, surrounded by shame around it, and they agree with you. They feel like some of these people might feel like, why should we feel shame about that? It happened. It's done. Yeah. Let's move on. So I think people talk about Brexit as voting for the past, and I didn't vote at all. But I think the way some of my friends describe voting to leave, it is to them part of the future. And I think I'm only thinking about this. I'm going to Manchester tomorrow to play a few clubs for the weekend. So be really careful, these cities outside of London, to not pretend that you're in an urban environment and they're all the same in the UK, because they're not. London's a bubble, as you know, you live here. And the rest of it's very different. People they vote differently for all sorts of reasons, obviously. But I think some of my friends who live in these larger towns outside of London, not just market towns like Leicester, that's one, and Leeds as well, but the larger cities as well, like Birmingham, they tell me that, they feel as though they've been restricted. They haven't had a pay rise, for instance, since 2008. And that it's more about, they prefer access, and they feel they've lost access to things. And they'd like to move forward. They'd like hospitals and schools built. They'd like to have a future as well. So I think that future to them means sort of not distancing themselves from the past, but recognizing what happened and then moving on from it.
Well, it's interesting, especially the fact that people want the government to build new things and invest money into infrastructure and that side of things. When a friend of mine, he works in quantity surveying for like 30 years now. It's a ridiculous amount of time. He tells me how this works, and a lot of schools and hospitals are built in a way that the building company builds it for their own money and then rents it out to the government, because the government doesn't have the money.
Oh, right.
And it's like, maybe that's the point when you want to have a look at what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
If you can't afford even to build like a school for your own kind of population,
when you're the fifth richest country in the world.
You
Yeah, I know. I think the money's been poorly invested, I guess. But also, I think, people want to feel like they're in control of their own destinies, so they believe sometimes what they're told, and they don't really research stuff very much.
Yeah, I forget about research.
But I've been guilty of that too. I mean, when I bought my flat, I didn't know what it meant to own a lease and not own the freehold, and I should have looked more into that. I should realize that my personality isn't such that I can get along with people very well who live in the same building I do, and whose opinions are they're based on their own fears or their own insecurities, not on the facts of what we're dealing with. So I've been having screaming matches for the last 3 months because we have water seeping in. As they're adding these flats atop us, they're shaking the building, and cracks have formed all along the top floor where I live.
Makes sense.
I told them this was going to happen because we were told, we were assured that our lives wouldn't be disrupted. And I'm like, I said, no, you're lying, and I know that you know that you're lying. No, they won't be disrupted at all. And the other 23 units, no, we'll be fine. I said, but you know that the ceiling's already weak, and that we've talked about putting a new roof in, but the people below me don't see how that results in a benefit for them because they don't live on the top floor, so they won't contribute to it. They expect only the top 4 flats to pay for it. This has been a huge point of contention between us because I basically heat the rest of the flats below me because I'm on the top floor. Oh, we're all warm and toasty all winter long. Are you? That's nice. Anyway, so now that the building's shaking and cracks have formed, I'm like, I told you so. And no one was going to do anything until the flats below me now, water seeping into their walls too. This is how people, until it affects them directly, So I was so happy to see other people's apartments damaged, and I hope they die of mold infection. Anyway, so in the meantime, finally today we had surveyors come and rebuild the scaffolding. They're going to fix the cracks, but I'm like, it's typical of people to let things get disastrous before they fix them. All these floods and all these fires in Australia, these floods in the U.S. and the floods here, you know, a lot of it's because, well, the fires are because of arson. People say, we start screaming about climate change. So fucking calm the fuck down. They've arrested 22 arsonists in Australia so far. Also, by the way, you shouldn't build below floodplains if you don't want to be flooded. It's not, don't blame God or the gays for bad weather. Fucking have better building conditions, you fucking retards. And a lot of it's like you said, I only thought it was insurance. You know, a lot of the rebuilds in Florida where they flood every year, people shouldn't be living there. But insurance companies see a great chance to make money. Of course they're going to go and rebuild because the government will pay them to do it. And then they'll build knowing that those houses will be stripped down by floods in 2 more years. They go it's God's will, we have to rebuild. My family's been living here for, oh, fuck off, just move. Maybe you're not meant to live, you know. All my friends freaking about Silicon Valley in California. We can't afford to live in San Francisco anymore. Well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should move elsewhere. People move all the time. Maybe you want to live in a place where you can afford a garden and then I don't have to listen to you bitch anymore. Or get a better job or make more money. I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're here to talk about. I read that article you sent me about bisexual men.
Oh, that was interesting to read.
Why did you send it to me?
I was just curious to find out because I was reading that book, Why Gender Matters. Because I've been kind of. Have you heard about Jordan Peterson, by any chance?
I know it is.
Yeah, so I've been listening to him a lot, and he was talking about transgender people and how is it like there's a biology and there is that, and you have to kind of reconcile the two things, and it's difficult. So I thought to myself, like, well, that makes sense. I'm a scientist by education, so I read core facts in order to dictate what's going on. Otherwise, I'm like, it's just an opinion. Keep it to yourself, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And I started researching in terms of the difference between male and female, because there's people on there like on TV and they say like, oh, there's no difference between men and women. We're all the same. I was like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
The very least you could say it's just absolutely dumb.
Yeah.
And then I came across that book, Why Gender Matters, and there he was talking about that. There's basically very unlikely that there is such a thing as bisexual men. So if you look at their sexual arousal in by genital sexual arousal, so not how they describe themselves, but biologically the response to watching, say, gay porn or lesbian porn or porn with men and women, gay people or bisexuals who say that they're bisexuals, they get turned on either by gay porn most of the time, somewhat by gay men and women, and somewhat by lesbian, whereas kind of straight men get turned on by female on female and male with female, and not by male with male. And basically that kind of goes to show that it's quite unlikely for men to be bisexual. They're either gay or straight, whereas for women their sexuality is fluid. So over the course of one woman's life, she can be gay for a period of time. If she likes the woman, she can date a woman and have a relationship with her, or if she likes a man, she can date a man. It purely depends on kind of some psychological factors rather than
physical
on physical sort of things.
It's funny because it's a difficult subject. I'm married to someone who's arguably, well, he self-identified as being bisexual, and I think it's kind of that article didn't talk about it, and I know that it wasn't meant to. It was talking about physical arousal, which is hard to measure. The article said that too, and I like how it said Freud didn't really believe in bisexuality amongst men. He thought men were either straight or gay, because he didn't see any proof of bisexuality. And he examined hundreds of men, he said, for sexual arousal, which I myself have also done. But I think it kind of, I wonder if it's about who you fall in love with more than who arouses you. I mean, I think that there are some people who can fall in love with men and women, and sex and sexuality are separate, as are gender and sexuality. For instance, when someone says to me, "Oh, Caitlyn Jenner has become a woman," the fact is, Caitlyn Jenner was always female. Now, Caitlyn Jenner's genitals reflect that. But that doesn't make her any more or less of a female than she was before. And then people are always intrigued, the media, about who is Caitlyn Jenner sleeping with. Was Caitlyn Jenner a gay woman trapped in a man's body, or a straight woman trapped in a gay man's body? Like, what people want to know, they want to specifically know where Caitlyn Jenner puts her tongue. And I think these identifiers are meant to make mainstream heterosexuals comfortable with conversation. Because I think, especially in Britain and in the US, people are so concerned about other people. People and partially that's because they don't want to embarrass themselves in conversation. So they would like to identify you and your gender and your sexuality as if it's any of their business, first off, but also so that they don't say anything that's inappropriate. Because they might want to make a joke about a queer or about Caitlyn Jenner. But if you include yourself in that community, they won't do that. So it's always interesting to me that the people being examined in these studies are meant to educate those examining them, when it's not really the job of a transgender person to educate a non-transgender person about who they are or how they behave. It's the same old fucking homophobia and transphobia. It's saying, you're like this, you're that. Here's the category you get to fall into, and if you don't, then I don't recognize you. For instance, I have fucked men who have never fucked men before. While I'm fucking them, they're gay. While I'm not fucking them and they're fucking a woman, they're straight. That tells you that those identifiers hold no meaning. They don't mean anything. The way you come is the way you come. It's all in your head. People think, men say this too. Oh, I made this woman come last night. I made her come 9 times. I just saw that in the film. In Fleabag, do you watch that brilliant series about sex and sexuality? You should watch it. Brilliant. Just won a bunch of Emmys. Anyway, she tells one guy, you made me come 9 times. And the reason she tells him that is to get rid of him, not to be involved with him. Because when she tells, it's just really brilliantly written show, but when she tells him that, he's thinking, I made her come 9 times. No, yeah. The reason that turns him on is because he came. It's in his head, not hers. He can't get in her head. What turns him on is the idea that what turns him on is his body coming, not anything else. Anything else that you say about what turns you on, it's all a lie. We don't care about pleasing our partner. We just want to get off. We just want to get our dicks wet. The pretense is that I understand your gender and your sexuality and how to please you, when really it's all a mystery. If I was fucking you, you could be thinking about anything. I don't know what you're thinking about. I'm not in your head. I don't know what you're going. Yeah. So I could not even be there half the time. Couples who've been together for a long time admit to fantasizing about all sorts of things when they're having sex. If, for instance, you and I have been together for 12 years and you're fucking me and I'm thinking about, I don't know, a Pilates class or the meal we're going to go to or all the shit I could be doing right now, what does that make me? It doesn't. Intellectually, all these definitions they're meaningless. These studies, these Kinsey reports, and people lie all the time. Men, oftentimes men especially, say what they think you want to hear. They want to be liked. So, I mean, I don't, oftentimes when I was younger, I would ask men if they were gay or not, and then I realized early on that it's a ridiculous question. Who cares? What do I care anyway? And also, none of my business. And they might not even know. When I met my husband, he was working in a gay club, but he wasn't gay identified. He'd been with women. And then I met him and we got along. I thought he was gay, but I didn't really ask. At that point, I'd stopped asking. So measuring people's sexual arousal, even when they're watching porn, is useless. Because who even knows if what they're watching is what's turning them on? Maybe the idea of watching porn turns them on, or the idea of someone watching them watching porn turns them on. It doesn't. Gender doesn't come into the equation. It never does.
I didn't actually even think about that.
If you're in, maybe the plastic of the smell of the room, maybe there's a memory they're having right then. Or maybe they like watching two guys fuck, but that doesn't mean they're gay. They never identify themselves as gay. Men touch their cocks all the time.
Fact.
Yeah. So, and they name their penises. Maybe the most romantic sex they had was in boarding school when they were 13, and they'll never admit it to themselves or anyone else. And maybe every time they fuck their wives, they're thinking about that 13-year-old boy they fucked, and they feel bad about it because it feels like they're being, kitty fiddlers. But you're not. It's just a memory, a smell, a scent, a reflection. There's this brilliant show on Netflix about these twin brothers. It's a documentary. Oh. And they were passed around by their mother when they were kids, English. And she passed them from men to men. They were upper middle class. And it's this weird thing that they claim is amongst their peeps, their upper middle class secret that these people hold, where they had passed these two boys around throughout their entire pre-adolescence. Almost every weekend, these kids were handed off to different people, different men who fuck them. And it's about their reunion and them talking about it for the first time. These two twin brothers who have stayed in contact and have business together, but never really talked about it. And there's one of them is much more tender and fragile, has been damaged really more than the other. Mm-hmm. And you just know that the thought in his mind is, did we fuck each other? Mm-hmm. Which it's been mentioned early in the film that they did. Mm-hmm. And you watch this whole thing, and it's such a mind fuck about sexuality and gender and sex and attraction. And they're both straight identified now with kids and wives. Mm. I mean, oftentimes people have sex because of circumstance. That piece you gave me mentioned it. Guys in prison who are there for life have lovers. What does that make them? I don't know. I don't care. Mm-hmm. The only thing I care about is getting off. All I care about is my orgasm. Mm-hmm. That's all anyone cares about. Mm-hmm. I was given this thing once because I did a benefit for a sex toy shop in San Francisco called I can't remember the name of it, but Good Vibrations.
Brilliant.
And and I did this. It was great. They're a great place. They're still there. And I did this benefit for them, and they had these. They gave me a goodie bag, and one thing in the goodie bag was this plastic container, mm-hmm. a cylindrical shape, clear plastic, with a thing at the top of it that was made of a porous, kind of squishy material that looked like a rectum, mm-hmm. and you're meant to fuck it. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was ridiculous. Anyway, it started talking to me. I fucked it so many times that I filled the container. I called my friend Mark and said, you have to take this and throw it away because I haven't left the house for 4 days. I'm just fucking this container. And I don't know what I was thinking about when I was fucking a plastic container. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not thinking I'm gay or this is a person or any of it. I've done some crazy fucked up sexual stuff that had nothing to do with my sexuality. So I read these things like you gave me, and I'm on the bus reading on the way here, just getting, just gripping my phone like, ugh. It concerns me that people, I love that people like to examine stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think most of it's opinion.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. I never thought about it in the way that you've just described it, to be honest.
Well, like anytime you're, there was this video that circulated about 5 years ago, and they made a film out of it. Any longer, it's a real clip where guys in Washington State, they had never outlawed bestiality. They never bothered to. In Washington State, near Seattle. Mm-hmm. So there was what do they call it? Sort of, not a camp, but a kind of a place where you could go and fuck animals. Mm-hmm. It was all men, obviously. It's a barn and stuff. Anyway, this guy filmed himself getting fucked by a horse at night.
Fucked by a horse?
By a horse. There's loads of porn where women get fucked by horses. Anyway,
I've seen some.
And Catherine the Great. I mean, there's that rumor. That's part of your. But anyway, I'm sure it's a myth. But anyway, I'd seen the video. I know. I saw the video. It was online for a while of the guy getting fucked by a horse, and they try to get this huge horse cock inside of him, and then find there's someone filming him. It's at night. They snuck into the barn, and finally the thing gets into him. And is in there for a bit. The poor horse just comes shoots over. Anyway, I could not stop watching the video. And my friend Mark called me again and said, "What are you doing? You're watching a video again, aren't you?" I said, I can't watch anything else. Now I would never, ever go near. I have no intention. But I don't know what that means I am. I don't think that I'm in a beast. I've never acted on it. I would never, poor kitty, I would never do that to an. But I mean, obviously, I found it intriguing.
Yes.
You know, I just think I hate to categorize ourselves, and I spend a lot of my act on stage trying to change the way people feel about gay men, trying to alter their perceptions of how we're meant to behave. That we're not all flag waving, sort of fist waving in a good way, sort of, you know, rainbow embracing unicorns who, like, you know, pop up and, you know, save the day, redecorate the house, and take your wife dancing because we're safe and all that shit. We're not escorts. We're not, you know, asexual, you know, wall-eyed Irish cunts on BBC One on Saturday nights. We're not all that successful. Some of us are just, you know, complicated, complex, but maybe racist, maybe right-wing, maybe poor without a disposable income, maybe poorly dressed. We have the same number of layers that any heterosexual onion has, and you can strip them back and find the core of someone, right? But you may not like the answer. And I try to reflect that in my act in a comedic way. So I feel the way you do. You said that at the beginning of the interview. I think it's really interesting. This is why I follow scientists all the time, because they don't, it's an opinion, take it home with you. That's not the conversation. And I studied economics my first year at university, and I just stuck with it. I became a drama major because my first boyfriend was a drama. I fell in love with an actor anyway. So, and the play practice conflicted with my studies in economics. But I read a lot of that stuff, and I really like breaking things down to fact. Although sometimes I realize there are no, in a way, outside of numbers, there's no true facts. Sometimes I feel that way, but anyway. Although I do think that most people are violent cave people, and we're one lap dance away from killing each other. That's why. Oh God, I mean, you know. Well, they finally admitted. Archaeologists finally admitted, and human behavioralists admitted that yes, the species mingled. Yes, we did whatever the species was before ours, who were illiterate cave people, basically, who could walk on two legs and stuff. But of course we fuck them. Of course that's why you give people more pints than they should be drinking, and they'll just beat each other to near death. I'm always surprised how safe the Western world is compared to how people think that the U.S. is violent. I'm like, you're kidding, right? Because, you know, there's the potential where we could all just, I mean, you know, guns are so accessible and bullets. I'm surprised we don't just kill each other more often. I'm impressed at how safe America is, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Because Americans take the Super Bowl very seriously. And, you know, we do, you know, power passes hands safely every 4 years. Most elections don't end in people are being crushed or assassinated, like some other countries. Or like could happen, yeah. Thanks for mentioning it. So he just fired everybody today, didn't he?
I know. I was like, holy shit.
Prime Minister and everybody gone. He's mad. He's really angry, you guys.
Bullshit. I think, you know what's happening there? Because he's talking about changing the constitution so that the only way that people can get into the government is through the parliament.
Okay.
So basically, if you choose the right people in the parliament, nobody can get into the government without them accepting it. So they're cutting out the demos from democratics, basically. Getting rid of all the people so you can't.
Do you think that he hinders investment in Russia or helps investment in Russia? Because he does keep Russia's profile in the media. Do you think countries are investing money in the country because they're interested, or that he stopped? Because the Russian economy is smaller than Italy's, 10 times the population. It's a disaster, the Russian economy. I mean, do you think it'll improve with him, or?
The amount of corruption that's going on there is just ridiculousness. It's just insane. There is a first prime minister of the Medvedev administration, I think it was, something like that. He bought himself a mansion, which is 4,000 square meters. That's the house. The White House is 5,000 square meters, so it's just shy.
Yeah.
The whole area is, I think, a hectare big, so it has its own forest. So he bought that. That's his. I think it cost about 120 mil, something like that, in pounds. Yeah. His salary is like nowhere near that, by the way. And then there was a construction company who wanted to build some elite housing around it because Moscow is expanding, so they thought, oh, let's build some houses there. So he said, you can build it, but as long as no windows are pointing in the direction of my house. And that's what they did. It's insane. Literally, half of the block literally has just no windows. It just blacked out completely. You can't look there. The other side of because it's kind of like a circular building, it has concrete slabs coming out. So when you're looking out the window, you can't look right and look into the thing. Just you can't do that. So you can't see it from any of the windows.
But people still want to live there because...
And it's expensive.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
So it's an elite kind of housing area. So... Can you imagine how corrupt that is? Not only you steal so much fucking money that you can afford to buy all of this stuff.
You determine what goes on outside your property. You can't look at me. It's unbelievable.
And it's just a tip of the iceberg. Medvedev himself has in Spain a winery, like a place where they make wine, with 100 hectares of plants. But 100 hectares. Huge. It's like, are you fucking out of your mind?
Yeah. Are you afraid about being, executed for saying these things on camera?
No, it's like there's a guy called...
Because they kill journalists and they kill opposition political candidates.
You see, that's what I have a question with, because there's a guy called Navalny, and he tells all these stories.
Yeah.
So he does the research, how all of them stealing planes or buying themselves yachts and whatever it might be, all the housing that they have, millions and billions of rubles that they steal. And he shows it like, here's the fucking receipts. This guy did it.
Yeah.
And he's still alive.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he's running for president.
Yeah, I've read about him.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like...
He's not in jail.
From time to time,
he's been in and out.
Yeah, they put him in and they constant raids on his offices and so on and so forth. I'm kind of surprised that he's still alive to a certain degree, because just get rid of him and that could have called it a day. And nobody can do anything
because Putin's got the eyes of a trained killer. He really does.
Well, he's a trained killer. He's in KGB.
Yeah, so he's probably strangled people and stuff, right?
Could well be.
He's felt the life of people go out of them.
Well, with the things that he had to do, especially in the 90s, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And funny enough, all of the rich people in Russia right now, like the super rich people, all of them are friends with Putin back when he was in KGB school.
Yeah.
All of them.
They know stuff about him, maybe.
No, he just puts them in places because then he can trust them.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll give you, this is you steal the money.
Yeah.
You give me a cut, but you stay in your place.
He was so hot before he plastic surgery his face. I mean, I'd still blow him, but he looked so much like an ex of mine who was from Slovenia. God, they look. When the first time I met this guy, I'm like, you look like Putin. He's like, I know. People tell me all the time. This is like 20 years ago. He was so cute. Putin.
Ha!
I love him.
And
he's gay.
He's gay. Putin.
He's gay.
Putin.
Everyone knows it.
Putin is like
the shirtless poses with the horse in the creek and stuff. Oh come on. The flexing and the wife who looks like a guy. Oh come on. Anyway, maybe. There's chat rooms online that hopes that he is.
It's a different story.
Yeah.
I know Russia is can be very homophobic in parts.
I'm desperate to play there. I've just interviewed a Russian comic for my podcast earlier today.
Oh, nice.
And he has no intention of going back to Russia, but I'd love to go there and play. It'd be great. Say whatever you want, see what happens. Why not?
I think it will happen, really. People are really kind of...
Nothing cares. No. They don't care about some queer from San Francisco anyway, but it would just be fun just to enlighten them a little bit, maybe, if I could find a way.
It's very weird. I don't even know where it comes from, because I grew up in Russia for the first 13 years of my life, and I can't say I had like anyone was homophobic. We never had even a conversation. So it was like it just been ignored.
Yeah. Really,
and then I kind of came here, and the first guy that I've been friends with, like the first person, he was gay, and I was like, great guy, because I couldn't speak English much at that time, and he was like the only person who was nice to me, and we kind of just been friends. It was like awesome. Thank God I actually had him in that time, because it made my life very easy when there's something in school that I can kind of just be around with, so to speak. And I don't know, never had that. I know, it's like people want to do what they want to do. It's kind of your fucking problem.
Yeah.
But one of my ex-girlfriends, she's Russian, and she's been in Russia for most of her life. And she's like very anti-gay, and I was like, well, what is your fucking problem? Like, how does that in remotest affect you?
Yeah.
But there's no logic there behind it. It's just like,
is she religious?
You see, she was quite religious. So she goes to church and stuff, but she was such a slut. It was
Catholic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's so stupid. I never understood it. It's like, because we went to church together once, and she's staying there like in that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Because you can't apparently be without something if you're in the church, and she's like praying, and that's been there for like a fucking hour. I don't believe in God personally, so I'm like, whatever, fine, it doesn't hurt me. And then, the things that she does doesn't correspond to
what
she
identifies her
believes
as a slut? What does she do?
Well, it's just the general behavior. There's a very complex situation with her parents, and you kind of see where that kind of happens. And that's the reason why. But it's constant begging for attention from men in any way, shape, or form.
You mean in her appearance or in her behavior?
Appearance and behavior. It always has to be around men. I'm good friends with her best friend back in the day. And she tells me that every time we go out, it's really annoying because as soon as there's no male attention, she wants to leave. As soon as that happens, she wants to go. And it's constant, being around boys, playing with them, trying to get something. She cheated on me, I think, at least once for sure.
Right.
With the landlord.
Oh, right.
Surprisingly enough.
Well, that's useful, at least. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you not be just... I think there's a problem that she loves sex, and she loves having sex with different men, but she doesn't accept it in herself. She thinks, oh, I don't want to be seen as a slut, because her main idea is to be perceived as a perfect girl.
All right.
And that's kind of why I fell for her. I was like, she's just perfect, hot as fuck, just porn star hot, but it's just so damaged on the inside. It's just like, holy shit.
All right.
Dangerous. So yeah, the slut, I think that comes from, it's like, that's what you want to do, and that's not the problem, but accept yourself for who you are and don't pretend, and that's going to be easier for you. But to be honest, I'm kind of conflicted on that as I'm talking about it. I've met that resistance in my head before. It's like, you call a girl a slut, but what constitutes a slut? So what constitutes a male slut is also a question.
They didn't really use the word slut for men, though. That's why people think that word is misogynist, because they don't call men sluts. They call men gigolos, which has a much lighter tone to it.
Yeah.
Or they call men a ladies' man, which oftentimes to me means he's probably queer. Or they call men, because they made it a shudder. Or they call men, dogs, or sexually like, they never use the word slut. I mean, it's saved for women, and I think it sounds judgmental in a way, because, why shouldn't she have sex with whoever she wants? I mean, it's cheating on you is one thing, that's fucked up, but it's always interesting because when I was growing up, Catholic girls were famous at the school I went to for only having anal sex because they didn't want to get pregnant. And I always thought, well, that's all I want to do too. So what makes this any different? Like, why does the Catholic Church then turn and judge gay men for doing the same thing? But yeah, I don't think, I'm always glad when I meet women who are sexually active. It's just a relief to me. I'm like, oh, thank God, we could probably talk about this then. I don't have to pretend that, that I'm one way or another. That I, oftentimes, I think women feel a bit safe around gay men because there's none of that weird sexual tension that goes on between heterosexuals and women when women aren't worried. And oftentimes, a relative of mine said something really interesting to me, that she would have rather grown up with her father than with her mother. And I said, wow, I didn't know this about her. And it's a cousin of mine. I said, why? She said, because my mom had boyfriends over. I said, how is that a problem? She said, because I was unsafe the whole time. Because men are horrible. And she said a couple of them said stuff to me, or sat on my bed at night, came in my room. Now, I'm sure that in years to come she'll tell me that she was molested, because oftentimes molested stories start that way. He sat on my bed or whatever. They don't tell you, they lead up. And she said, when I was at my father's, I felt safe because he had girlfriends. You can understand how women are constantly subjugated. It's fucking horrible. So the minute you call a woman a slut, it's like, fuck off. What, because I have sex?
Yeah, but that's my kind of question. It's like,
did you cheat on her? Did you cheat on her?
In exchange for cheating on me.
Sure you did.
No, honestly, that was kind of the only reason why. It's like, maybe that will sort that out.
Maybe she's a slut and you're childish. I mean, which is worse. I mean, I think, again, with sex, people put so much... I see this a lot with my husband because he's very conservative. And he puts so much power and emphasis on sex in the wrong way, I think. I think sex is incredibly powerful. It's a great release and it's a great way to clear your mind. But I don't... He puts all this social weight on it. He really judges gay men. Like, how could they, have an open relationship? How could they fuck other people? They're dirty, and how could they... Like, and then he weirdly he'll know. He assumes all straight couples are monogamous. Oh. He has this weird naive idea that people don't have their own understandings, that every couple is different, and they diplomatically create or design how their relationship's going to last if it does. He wants everyone to be kind of the same, and, or like him.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel bad for straight people sometimes.
Why?
I watch Love Island, and it just takes forever to get a hand job. For fuck's sake, these guys wait weeks for a woman to pick them, and it's like a gay Love Island lasts 30 seconds. You just stick it in. You guys, I hear guys talking about it in the green room comedy clubs, talking about dating women for weeks and weeks before anything happens. And maybe the women are waiting for the guys to do so. I don't know. I don't know who's waiting, but it can take forever. I mean, gay men usually fuck first and talk later.
Really?
Yeah. People fall in love. Gay men fall in love in bed. They don't fall in love at dinner or at a party. They fall in love in bed. And they get the sex out of the way. That took a dip for a while with AIDS, but it's back in full force. No one's using condoms anymore.
Really?
No. That's why STDs among gay men are skyrocketing. Not AIDS, obviously, because a lot of people I know are medicated so they don't get HIV, but
Can you get medicated?
Yeah, of course.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I'm kind of in the outside world, apparently.
Yes, yeah. It's called PrEP. Capital P, small R-E, capital P. Yes, and it's daily. If you're sexually active, you take a pill in the morning, I think.
And it's nice.
Yeah.
Holy shit, we live in the future.
Yeah, we do. But that doesn't restrict, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, all the other stuff. So that's skyrocketing. And they're worried about that becoming like super viruses that can't be stopped by penicillin. So, all that potential romance that happened around the AIDS epidemic because people had to talk to one another. Oh, well.
Why don't gay men use condoms?
Why don't you?
Good point. No. Okay, fair enough.
Because it's funner, feels better, more immediate. Feels like you're connecting more. Gay men had to build a whole myth around condoms in the 80s because we were forced to survive, It's okay. You can last longer with a condom, and it's the same. It feels the same. And, even porn films that were made still are with protected sex to teach the right lesson. And it was good. It saved a lot of lives. But it was a myth. We all knew it. We all knew we were lying to ourselves. We all know it's better with that one. It feels better.
Nice.
It does. I mean, you can eroticize anything. People dress up as fluffy animals and fuck one another. You can eroticize. I could fuck an ottoman, or maybe that tree, the Christmas tree that's been here for too long is. I don't know what you do to that thing when I leave, but you can definitely eroticize condoms, condom use, like putting one on and taking time and going on a date first or whatever, and using the right one, and then condoms became sexualized and lube became gender specific and all this shit. It became an industry like everything else. But we all knew the whole time that it's just a matter of time till we're back at it. So, anyway.
Interesting.
anyway.
Interesting. So, how long have you been married for?
To my work for 25 years, to my husband for 6.5, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, why get married?
Well, I don't know. We
Great answer.
we were together, and we wanted more rights.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did, for more rights.
Do you get more rights if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
married? In what way?
Well, okay, for example, once we were married, because I had an Italian citizenship,
Oh.
my husband was able to apply eventually for his British citizenship.
Like, because you had Italian.
Because I had Italian citizenship, we were permitted a civil partnership. Had I not been an EU national, we would not at the time have been allowed to have a civil partnership in this country.
Okay.
Because we were allowed that, with the expediency with which we were allowed it.
Okay.
There were no time allotments at that time. I fit the category for a married person, and I was able to marry him. And because I was able to marry my husband, he was able to apply at that point for permanent residency and British citizenship eventually.
Okay.
So there's that. Traveling together is a lot easier to get visas. It was easier for him to get a visa to the U.S. once gay marriage was allowed in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, even though we were still a partner, they restricted him from going to America because they were afraid that he would use our relationship to stay in America.
Okay.
And once they realized they couldn't control that because we could just go to the U.S. and get married anyway, or get married here, and it would have to be legally recognized by the U.S. government. He got a visa like that. We didn't get married for the rights. We were living together and in love anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought, why shouldn't we have them like everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And plus, he wanted to get married. My husband's a very traditional Brazilian. It's very important to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, yeah, I want to see what it's like. I'm in love with him. I asked him. I never thought I would do that. I asked him to marry me. And I also thought, in a way, it's a responsible thing to do because we had this life together. We lived together. We've lived together for quite some time. And, it's what if something happens that disrupts that?
Mm-hmm.
I want him, my husband, to make decisions for us.
Mm.
I don't want some stranger like my family or the state to come in and tell us how to behave. I'm not sure that that's what would happen, but now it certainly won't.
Mm-hmm. So you have that certainty there.
There's all that. People get married for all sorts of reasons. And we got married because we could. Really, that's the reason. Because we were allowed, finally.
Seems like a lot of combination of factors.
Everything. Yeah, he really wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
He was really keen on it. And it was important to him. And I thought, why not? He wants it so bad. It's not going to really change our lives at all. Mm-hmm. Of course it did dramatically change our lives. But
really?
Yes, any written document that's, put through by the government. Of course, once you have legal marriage status, it changes. He became a bit more territorial, if that's possible. And I started to push back even more. So we had this constant push-pull thing. And I've got to be who I am, and he's got to be who he is. And, yeah. I don't know about monogamy being a natural state. People talk about it as a natural state, monogamy, I just don't like it.
So are you in open marriage?
No, but I don't like monogamy either. So,
yeah. I have that very interesting, kind of can't reconcile the monogamy in my head in a certain sense. It's like, how do people are together for like 35 years?
Yeah.
With just one person.
They aren't.
So it's like
They aren't. Europeans don't talk about it. They just don't talk. Americans want to know. They want to know what did you do? Oh God, what did you do? Oh, you fingered somebody. But Europeans are like, my friends here just don't. Heterosexual couples too. They're like, I don't want to know. I don't know what my husband does when he's away on a business trip. I don't want to know. Why would you want to know? It's just sex. It's like breathing or taking a shit. It's a body thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if my husband fell in love with somebody, then he's somebody else's problem. Then I want to know. But if he just got back from Brazil yesterday. I have a couple times in the past. He wouldn't like me telling this. been on his iPad trying to find something and found photos. I wasn't looking. I would never look, ever. I would never. It's none of my business. If he's got a hot story he wants to tell me, it better be hot. You can tell me. I don't want to hear, though, I feel bad. I don't want to hear that story, because I don't want to take on all your grief and all your guilt because you fuck somebody in a sauna. I don't give a shit. But if you've got a hot story you want to share with me, we can laugh about it and then fantasize about it afterwards. That's great. And I found some photos of some boy in a Speedo in Brazil while he was there. I don't know. A beautiful boy with a nice heart on it. It was great. And I waited. And then eventually, weeks later, Kapoor, this guy said, my friends send me photos they find. They think they're funny. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw those. Yeah, I don't know who that is. They just find them online. I'm like, honey, I don't care. I said again, unless there's a hot story attached to this, I don't care. And I'm never going to hunt you for details. I don't have a fucking, file index in my head of potential lies, of how I'm going to hound you down for the secrets. And I don't care. People have secrets. I'm exhausted by my own life. There's no way I'm going to take on somebody else's fucking journey. I don't give a shit. I don't care what people do. I don't care. Again, and I'm not going to bore him with my details either. With my fantasies or what I do or what I've done, or who cares? I'm also 57. Nobody cares what a 57-year-old gay man does. Nobody gives a shit. We are invisible. So it's kind of a relief. So, yeah.
What about group sex? Free sex
great.
And that, so
Great.
Whatever you got. With your husband?
No, I wish. Because he's really hot. He's got a big one, too. It'd be fun. But no, he would never do it.
Oh, why not?
He's not doesn't interest him. I'm not judging him, saying he's small-minded because he won't do it, or how could he not do it? It just doesn't. He likes one-on-one with me. That's what he likes. I think. Now, if I found out in 5 years to come, if we divorce or something, and he tells me later, I was having group sex the whole time, I'd be so annoyed. Not because I'd be mad because he's doing it, because I hadn't been included. This guy I went to high school with. He's dead now, so I can mention Lane. He was a big pot smoker in high school. I had pot all the time. We didn't get along in high school. He's really homophobic. Turned out to be queer, right? Had a boyfriend, had a husband in Mexico in the end. Anyway, so since beaten to death. But anyway, in Mexico, yeah, his car jacked and he was macheted. But anyway, we became friends. His brother was one of my best friends actually, and Lane admitted to me later he used to get high school athletes high and then fuck them. I'm like, who? And he listed a bunch of men I remember from high school who were so hot, some of whom he fucking got high and then banged in his own house. I'm like, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous I never thought of that. I was such a nerd in school. I was so into my studies and so concerned about my future. I was one of those kids. I wore a tie and shit. I was one of those retards. I was never sexualized until something happened. But I didn't know that people my age, people don't say people are asexual, but until I was 16, I was sexless. I hid who I was from people so desperately that I didn't see it myself. And it wasn't until men were picking me up in their cars. So they'd see me, I was this tall, but I was thinner, with light-colored eyes and blonde hair. I looked like a girl. And not that that's what turned them on. What turned them on was I was a 16-year-old boy, and they would pick me up in their cars, drive me places, remote areas, and have sex with me. And I thought that was going to be my sex for the rest of my life. I thought that was all I was ever going to do. I was a very conservative family. Never thought I'd come out. I knew where there was a gay club, not even a bar, but a club night in my town, but I would never go there, ever. And I would never associate with those people, even though I was in drama. And I was fucked up, like a lot of gay kids are. I was confused. And it wasn't until I met Lane, his brother, Reed, that I fell in love with him. And Reed was straight at the time. Straight identified. He came out too. But I was really in love with him. And I had to admit it to myself. And it was painful and beautiful, painful. It's great. And from that moment, I kind of figured it out. And then I went away to university. University is all about people coming out as whoever they are, whatever they are. Artists, gay, lesbian, whatever you are, you come out as that person finally because you're away from your fucking parents telling you what to do and how to behave. So, and your friends you grew up with, you have new friends. And you reinvent yourself. It's great. That's why I think university is so valuable for people, not just for the book learning, but for everything else. But anyway, so yeah, So I understand I understand because I was very conservative too when I first came out. I only wanted one boyfriend and monogamy and all that shit before AIDS and stuff. But after 10 years of that, I fucked anything. Because I realized, you were only here for a short time. And I'd read this article at university, actually. They'd interviewed old people about their regrets. I remember reading this in the New York Times when I was a kid. And the main regret was not having enough sex.
Really?
And I thought that's never going to be something I'm going to suffer from. I'm going to change that in my life. Mm-hmm. And I started going to gay clubs. And man, in the 80s in gay clubs, when you're that age, when you're 20, 21, you got a fake ID. And anyone will fuck you. Anyone will fuck you and give you money or whatever you want. Youth, straight men too. Youth is a big thing. I had guys follow me home. It was creepy. Men are creepy. They'd sleep outside my house in the cars and stuff.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, that happened many times. Yes. No, it didn't. It wasn't because of who I was. It was because I was 19. I was 19 and 6'2", and I had tiny hips and tight jeans on, and I could dance, and I was funny, and they just wanted to fuck the hell out of me. They wanted their youth back. I was so young, I thought 25 was old. I remember meeting a guy who was in retail. He had a job. I thought, oh, he's so old. He's got a job. And he had braces, and I thought that was so cute. And he took me out on dates, and I was just into him so much, and he told me I wasn't his type, that I was too young for him. And that just really wiped me out. I was legal, but I was still too young for him. I just remember crying over that and wanting to be so much. I wish I was older. Oh God. And he's probably 26, 27. And so, yeah, it was, I had to find my independence and who I was. And I think I found that. I found that in bed with other people. I did. It helped me break free. It did. Yeah. It helped me define who I was politically and socially and how to communicate with people. And yeah, I'm really proud of all the sex I had and the people I met that way. I wouldn't have it any other way. So when my husband speaks disparagingly about people who sleep around or fuck around, and even when you say the word slut, I just think it's good to be a slut. I think it's supercilious and restrictive to be anything else. We're human beings. What else we got? None of this has anything to do with who we are. This is all shit. It's all gonna outlive us. All I was concerned with for like 15 years when I was younger was getting off. I don't think I was addicted to it, but maybe sometimes.
What about sex with women? Do you have any?
Yeah, I've met women I've been very attracted to, and I do get crushes on women, especially on yoga retreats when I
Really?
share a room. Yeah, I do. I come home talking about them. My friend Mark always says, hey, every time you go in, you get a crush on a woman. But because I think women are great, but I'm not sexually interested, and I like kissing women and being around women, and I like listening to women talk about what they think is funny, and I like women honestly sharing their experiences with me, because they don't want anything from me, which is great. But I don't want to make them guinea pigs, and I've thought about it once or twice, but I knew that once I got in bed with them that it wouldn't work. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't put them through that, and I don't want to be, I don't understand the way a woman's body is when she's naked. I don't know how that works. I know how a man's body works, and I know how to get a guy off. But I think it's about a smell also. I've been around naked women. I've worked with naked women, and the smell doesn't turn me on. But we're all just wild animals sniffing at each other, really.
That's very true. So men only.
Yeah. What about you? Yeah. What about you?
So far, women only.
See,
who knows how it's going to go down?
Well, you're in the right neighborhood for a bit of whatever.
So it's just down the line, eh?
Yeah. And you're a definite type. So.
Am I?
Yeah, you are. Yes, you're a cub.
What's that?
Oh, you can look it up. Well, in the bear community, in the gay community, a bear is a man my age but hairy, and you'd be you're a bit of a cub.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a whole world out there waiting for you with cubs and otters and wolves and bears and the whole thing.
Wolves?
Mm-hmm. Wolves are generally considered bears with HIV, so they're thinner. And then otters are younger cubs, like yourself, young and a bit hairy but thin. They get all sorts. So there's that.
Interesting. This whole world out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The gays love to categorize. They love it. They love to limit themselves with scarves. But the bear community is great. They're very great at raising money. They're very supportive during the AIDS epidemic. They raised a lot of fucking money, the bears did. Because a lot of them like leather. Leather's very expensive. That's an expensive hobby. Whew. And the bears love motorcycles. And they're fun. I've hung out with bears before in Nevada. That was fun. In Las Vegas with the bears. They're great. They love to ride their motorcycles off into the desert. They're hilarious. So yeah.
It's like a quick memory there.
Yeah. I spent a weekend with the bears once. Yeah. One almost crushed me. He was such a big boy. Really liked him. Yeah, so you could join that community. That's one for you. There's one. Community. That's one for you. There's one.
No.
They'll take care of you.
An interesting twist for the conversation.
See, I have this book too. Yeah, so yeah, you know, how old are you?
23.
Oh, so young. So young. You're so lucky.
Why?
Because you're not yourself yet. You don't know who you are. It's great.
That is very true.
It's great. Every day's a mystery. It's like the reverse of Alzheimer's, because you'll remember, but every day's fresh. It's so good. Food still tastes good to you. You don't have hangovers. Oh, it's so great. You have no idea. Yeah, it's great.
What would you say? You said that the one regret you don't want to have is not having enough sex.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say a regret would be? So if you were to die,
that I didn't learn piano.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I never learned to speak French. Yeah, those are two big ones for me. Because I used to have a little list, but I did a lot of them. So, I mean, one regret would be that I didn't have. I have a fiction book published in this country, but I'd like to publish more.
I heard that the follow. How's it called? How was the book called?
Foul Play.
Foul Play. That's the one.
It's about murder and date rape, and it's about this guy on a date where it goes wrong and the guy dies. So he tries to make it look like suicide, and when he does that, it gets worse. But the lead character, the protagonist, is a closeted stand-up comic in the book. Mm-hmm. I wrote a couple books after that for the same publisher, but they didn't buy them because the protagonist in that book, the next one I wrote, was heterosexual, who was pretending to be gay to get his musical produced. Pretending to be a gay man with HIV, living with a drag queen in New York who's his lover. But it was all put on because he's trying to get a musical about AIDS produced. Mm-hmm. And no one would produce a musical about AIDS written by a straight guy. That's offensive. But if you're a gay man with AIDS, then it's not offensive anymore. So no one can produce it. So really about people's perceptions and gender identity and stuff. But my publisher was like, I can't get this sold because you're going to lose your reading audience. Because apparently only gay men will only read books with gay men in them. That's what she decided. So this is more of mainstream small-mindedness about gender and sexuality. So it's my regret that book didn't get. That would be a big one, because I tried for years to get it published. I just couldn't.
Can you publish it on your own?
Now, maybe online. Sure.
Online, or you can print it. Printing is cheap these days.
Maybe. I could publish 10,000 of them and sell them at my comedy shows. I've thought about it. I've been selling merchandise recently that's been really fun, so I'm thinking about doing it.
Amazon?
Yeah, maybe.
Guys.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I should finish it first, though. I only wrote two-thirds of it. So that's the regret, really, not finishing it.
Well, there's still time. The piano and the French.
I'm tone deaf, so it's hard with... I'm not really tone deaf, but I kind of am, so it's kind of... Music and language is hard. My husband speaks four, and he understands French. I really admire that. What about you? What's your regret?
I haven't lived yet.
All right.
I haven't lived yet to have a regret. That's kind of the way I see it.
They'll pop up.
Yeah, something will happen. So I don't know, just a lot of experiencing the world every day, pretty much.
I've said a couple of things that I wish I hadn't said professionally that probably burned bridges that I shouldn't have burned.
Oh.
But at the time they made sense. I try not to be hard on myself about it. Oh, years ago I won this award at the Fringe Festival, and people considered it an important award. I didn't know what it meant when I won it. It was great to win. It was a real privilege to win it. But one of the judges approached me at the award ceremony and congratulated me, and I criticized him. Mm-hmm. After he, had something to do with me winning an award. I was young and really arrogant, as young people are. And but my gripe was sincere. And I thought that he'd been homophobic because he judged me a few years before negatively for something else. And what he'd said had really offended me and had really rose doubts in my management's mind at the time. And he caused problems with what he said about me, having seen me live. So I said, well, it's interesting you say this now because a couple of years ago you said this. And he said, what did I mean? I'm like, I don't know. What did you mean? It's important that you know. And that wasn't the right way to handle it. The right way would have been when he congratulated me, say, thank you. And to shut my fucking gay mouth. But I didn't. And so whatever resources I could have followed through with that guy, I slammed the door shut on forever. Because, in business, people don't forget stuff. And also, he's got 1,000 other people he can talk to and offer jobs to. There's loads of talented comics in the business. Doesn't need me. I need him, actually, by the way. So so I'm sure he forgot about me the next minute. It was a big mistake. I mean, not big. Who cares? Nothing would happen. It meant nothing. But I just wish that I'd handled myself more. I mean, I know successful people in business. I know some. I associate with them to feel, but vicariously. And I watch them, not just my business, but all sorts of businesses, doctors, lawyers. And I watch them deal professionally with coworkers at dinner parties or, whatever situation. They'll describe a story. And I can see how diplomatic they are. It's important. People work with people they like.
That is very true, unfortunately.
Not with cunty, nasty little queers from San Francisco who think they know everything. And I just, I should have just been gracious. Why couldn't I just be gracious? Why are gay men so hard on themselves? Anyway, but there was all sorts of circumstances around that evening as well that I'm not going to let myself forget. And things that came out of that night that were both great and not great. That had nothing to do with me. So I understand why I did it.
I think that's kind of, I don't know, from what I've heard just now, it seems like a fair question to ask. It's like, well, then you said this, now you're saying this. Explain yourself. Just like, it's a fair
Wrong
question.
time for it, though. It was an award ceremony. He was congratulating me. I should just have said thank you. If I had a problem and it had it led to something where he'd called me in, let's say he's a TV producer, and had he called me in, say, a month later and said, what are your TV ideas? I could have said, well, I have this idea and that idea, but I'm worried about what you said to my management 2 years ago. I worry if that will stand in the way of our working together now. That would be completely fair and actually quite professional. And he'd probably respect me for doing it that way.
Interesting, yeah. That is
But
true.
to do it that night at that award ceremony when he was being nice, there's a time and place for everything.
Well, we learn by making mistakes.
Yeah, I fucked up big time. And I learned to keep my fucking mouth shut. Although I'm sure I fucked up a couple of times after that, but that was a big lesson for me. Yeah. Anyway, I did work for him years later. Not in the way I wanted to, though. And I knew in the contract, and I could tell by the way his assistant was talking to me that he hadn't forgotten what I'd said. But oh well. Everything we do has something to do with what happens.
Well, yeah. What about comedy? How did you end up in?
I was an actor, and I was in a play. I tried it, and I was closeted in LA, and I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it. I was around comedians who seemed they just seemed unhappy all the time. And I knew a couple of the women I was working with were gay and closeted on stage, and they didn't know I was gay, although they must have known. We all knew about each other, but none of us were talking about it on stage. And that was hard for me because I was out to my family and my friends, just not professionally. I hated being closeted. I'd auditioned for a couple of films. Breakfast Club I got called back for the nerdy guy. And in the audition process, because I won some awards at university for acting. And so through that I got management in LA, which was unusual while I was still in university.
Oh.
I was going up to LA from college and auditioning for films. Breakfast Club, I got called back twice. And the second round, my management got involved and were rehearsing with me in their office with the script. We had the script at that point. And I remember these two guys side to side of me yelling, you're too fruity, you sound too faggy, yelling at it. And this is a while ago, like 1980, 84.
Jesus.
35 years ago, when you could wave that shit.
Yeah.
And it just scared the shit. I'm sure that's why I did badly. But when I actually went in to read the script, I'm sure I was terrible because I was hiding who I was. Mm-hmm. The producers were them anyway. So yeah, I learned to hide myself professionally. And then I moved to San Francisco and was in a play about the creation of the AIDS memorial quilt, which you may not know about, but there's a quilt that's still around, but used to be unfurled every year at different political events. And each panel was 6 feet by 3 feet. And it was sewn and created by friends and family of a person who died of AIDS.
Okay.
And each panel was individual. And at some point, when we unfurled it in 1989 in the ellipse in front of the White House, because Bush refused to talk about HIV and AIDS and the epidemic, and Reagan had never said it. So we unfurled it in 1989, the second unfurling of it. There were thousands of panels. Thousands, and they're still on display in museums. They still have tours. It's very emotional. It's a very, very emotional experience. I think the size is, I remember the 6 by 3, but anyway, it's a traditional size panel for a quilt. And there's been film and documentaries made about this stuff. It's a huge thing, and I was lucky to be involved with it early on as a volunteer and then as an actor for the play. And a woman in the cast who's a lesbian, comedian, said, "You're funny, you should try it." I said, "I've tried it. There's no place for me in comedy." She said, "There are out comics. You're wrong about that." And it was San Francisco, so of course there were. So I went along and saw some comedy shows. Very emotional for me. I lost my shit. I remember just crying and crying, watching these people talk about themselves on stage openly. I still get emotional about it. Very, very, very emotional experience to see a gay man talk about being gay on stage. You must understand, you have grown up in a world much more accepting about this shit than I did. There was nobody. There were people in the church I went to the Catholic Church, that didn't think gay people existed. They don't exist. It's a myth. They've been made up. Okay, so I thought I was the only one in the world, and I was living in San Francisco during the gay rights shit. It was all around me. And I thought I was, still think, so when I saw these people, and I thought I'm going to try this, and it took me forever to do it. It took me forever to get up on stage and say I was gay. And I was someone who'd been out to my family for years. I was living with a guy that had been with for years. Everybody knew him. But to say it on stage is different. And then I came out in my act for years after that. I had to come out every time until I realized, audience doesn't give a shit. They just want to laugh. Just leave here. Give it a toss either way. You could be purple in a wheelchair with one leg and a horn coming out of your head. They don't care. Just be funny. And the British have proven that again and again and again and again. They don't care. Part of the reason why I moved here, because, or live here, spend a lot of time here. I go back, my permanent residency is still the U.S. But, people here. It'd be an embarrassment if people made a thing about you being queer. In the U.S., they use it as a political tool all the time. Or in Russia, or in Brazil, all the time.
You see it in the U.S.?
Yes. They blame hurricanes on gay men.
Are you serious?
Yes, and the Russians do. The Russian politicians, Putin's a fucking...
Oh, they're just...
He's a caveman. So the Polish are terrible about it, the government at least. So, governments use it still, but not here. If a British politician came out as homophobic, people would laugh him off the public stage. It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah. So it's different here. And if I was ever heckled for being queer in this country, it had happened. In the 90s, it did. Oh. But if it ever happened now, a couple of times in this country, people did admit they had a problem with me for being queer from the audience.
Really?
But believe me, it's a great weapon if you're on stage, because you learn how to deal with that really quickly, and you can turn that to your benefit so easily. because obviously the vast majority of the room disagree with them, whoever they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you learn to turn that into an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage, you won. It's a great learning curve. So I have no problem with people that are homophobic in the audience now. I invite it. Bring it on. What do you got? Love to hear it. But no one would now. No one ever would. It's like being racist. It would never happen now.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism, they're all right within this country, but there's a long history of that. They don't mind a bit of that. And it depends on where you are. If your politics sway a bit right-wing, they're okay with that too.
Mm.
But homophobia, racism, no way. People are even nervous about accents here because they're worried you're being a bit racist if you do an accent.
Yeah. Racism is such a weird thing. Anyway.
It's fucked up. And it, as a comic, you can explore it, but you got to be careful. It's real thin ice you're on. But it's fun.
Fun to be on a thin ice.
Well, I've stopped, sometimes you have to name your credentials before you start talking about your own community, but I've stopped doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman this summer thought I was a straight man, pretending to be gay, making fun of gay men at a club, and she rushed back in the green room and screamed at me and had it out. Yeah. And it's happened more than once since then. And that's the woke thing. That's the woke thing. That's people thinking they know better than you. And that's them knowing who gay people are and you not fitting that criteria, that cutout that they have in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And they're educated and they've read The Guardian and they read Huffington Post and they know how gay people sound and you don't sound like that. So
you're not gay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's a reversal in a way.
My husband.
Yeah. We've come full circle. So now a gay man can be criticized for not being the right kind of gay.
You're the wrong gay. Get out of here.
It's funny, but it's good. Again, it's a tool. It's a weapon to your own advantage. It wasn't that night, but anyway. Thanks for this. Has been fun. Long, rattling on and on. Sorry. Long, rattling on and on. Sorry about that. Thank you.
I'm just the reason I'm looking is I want to make sure that there's no dodgy spikes sort of thing that damage the sound.
And I've done this a couple of times, so that'll.
No, that should be fine because
right.
it kind of only makes a sound if you touch this bit. So I think fiddling with that shouldn't be an issue. All right. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, you should clarify what fiddling with that means to the listening audience because I don't know what you're talking about.
That they can create their own image.
See, everybody does.
It's going to be a different type of podcast.
So you film them and you record them. You do the two thing. That's what the guys that do trigonometry do too. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to make sure to get as much audience as you can, basically.
Yeah.
All the sources, because that's the way to do. Do you want to play a fun game?
What?
It's called Confessions.
All right.
What's up?
I was wondering what that was.
Little secret box with little cards and black card. Fair enough. Space. So they have different sort of questions on them, personal or career oriented. So where you can roll the dice, whichever one falls out, we can pick it up.
Oh, just flat.
Oh, she rolled a card. All right, it's a. What is that? I guess it's anyone's go. Just roll one more time.
Okay.
I don't know what the question mark means.
It's that one.
Heart. Heart is relationships, family, career, relationships. So. Off it goes, and let's see. So, what's the question?
Describe the career of your ideal partner. Oh. Yeah. I'd love them to be like a lawyer or a doctor.
Oh, why?
Because they make a lot of money, and also because I think that people that are involved in specialist occupation like that are really, if they're really committed, it's really interesting. I have a friend who's a doctor, an MD in the States. And he works with people who are coming off drug addiction. Ooh. And I think it's fucking fascinating, his stories. And he has, like you said, a scientist's viewpoint. He doesn't have opinions about their behavior, about their personalities. He doesn't judge them on their economic status or their gender, any of it. He talks about them as a medical issue, which I just think breaking someone down to their organs, to the sinew that makes us up, is just so interesting to me. Yeah. So anyone committed to a true profession like that is really fascinating and educated. Because I want them to read books and stuff, and not that educate people who are smart, but I want them to be. They don't actually have to be educated. They have to be concerned and interested in educating themselves, whatever that. In educating themselves, whatever that means too.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. There's more amongst the lines. What about your husband? What does he do?
He's a barista. He works in a comedy club now, but he's getting a degree in something associated with law. So that's really interesting. It is hard, but sometimes I read some of his case study stuff. It's so funny. British law is hilarious. Oh, so funny. And yeah, it's great to see him excited about it. Your turn.
I wasn't expecting to play myself.
See, go ahead, Nicole.
Yes, sort of thing. Money.
Yay.
Money. Relationships. Money. What is it about your character that hasn't enabled you to make more money?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I'd say my mouth can't shut up at the right time.
See, you know how it feels.
Being in the latest situation is we have a person at work, and I like to come out and just start saying things like I know things, like with that study about bisexuals. So I was like, oh, that's it. I understand how it works now, and so two-dimensional. Anyway, and we had a conversation about adopting kids, and I kind of made a comment that's like, well, it's a difficult thing to do because there's going to be some psychological issues to do with that, because I grew up without a father and I have like a fucking wagon of shit that I deal with every day because of that. You know, on a psychological level, it's just a fact, or whatever my mom did, because parents fuck up all the time, and kids have to live with it. So it's like, obviously, a kid growing up without a parent completely, that obviously leaves it vulnerable to having issues. And I said, well, that's just different because kids are just generally will be, fucked up, as we all are. But that's kind of not the way that it sounded. And the person had some relatives or whatever who adopted kids, and it's like, oh, they're actually quite great, and you dumbass, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, I should have kept my mouth shut, because you can see it building up. Because I keep talking and they're just quiet. You can see the rage on their face.
Getting quiet.
And I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking keep pushing it to the side.
Well, that's because that was your experience, though. I mean, I think it's fair if you keep it to your own experience. It's fine.
I guess, but I kind of was generalizing. I was like, all the kids that are from are adopted have psychological issues because of that.
Yeah.
Which I can't say it's not true, because we all have psychological issues because of our parents or the lack of thereof.
Well, they're going to have some issue.
Exactly.
I mean, their circumstances are unusual. It's difficult in Russia too. I have friends who've adopted from Russian places, and it's different there. It's strange too when you start to talk to someone about something you feel strongly about, and you can see in their eyes that they're only hearing it through their own story, through their own experience. It's a real problem for comedians, because one of the biggest challenges for us to make our stuff accessible to a room full of strangers, without pissing them the fuck off so they don't listen at all. So yeah, it's really like, sometimes I'll be on stage and I can tell the audience wants the show to be about them and not about me. It's really difficult. And sometimes in the conversation you can see that too with people. Like, they want the conversation to be about their experience and what they think and how they feel about this. And I get in trouble with that too.
Human nature,
I guess. But whenever I'm talking to someone, I kind of want them to change my mind about something. I like it if people disagree with me.
It's a difficult thing to do nowadays. But that's why I'm noticed you can't have enough. Because, for example, I'm kind of full of opinions on certain things. Let it be, no such thing as bisexual man. Mine changed. Thank you very much. Because I never even. Now I'm going to think about.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Or the kids from adoption agencies and this sort of things, or whatever it may be. You can't